December 20th, 2014, my wife and I, Ricky, we had driven up to Boston. We usually celebrate Christmas holidays in Boston with my family, and some of the family flies in from other parts of the country. So we had just checked into the hotel, sitting down to read the paper, just relax a little bit, and I get a call. And it's the worst call that any police chief, police commissioner ever can receive. In this case, it was that two of my officers had been shot, and that I'd be needed back in New York immediately.
Well, I remember, it was the holiday season, right? We're just going to go into Christmas. It's always a hectic time of year here because all the judges want everything wrapped up, and there's different clients who would like everything closed by the end of the year. So you're working pretty hard. And obviously when that news hit, it was akin to 9/11. It was akin to when all those firefighters got killed on Father's Day. It's just one of those moments in life that everything stops and there's a sense of shock.
Well, I remember coming into work and hearing about the terrible tragedy that took place. And I was in the union at the time, and many of the union officials from the DEA and the PBA responded to the hospital, and it was one of the most darkest days in the history of the NYPD. I have 39 years in the police department, and unfortunately I've responded and been to numerous police homicides, and this one in particular was difficult because of the way it was done. When the police are not safe, the people of the city are not safe. So it sent shockwaves through the city of New York.
On that day, we were having a children's Christmas presentation in our church. And it was a matinee. It was somewhere maybe 20 minutes, a half hour after the presentation started, where one of the ushers came over to me and said, "Pastor, we need you downstairs." And that's when they told me that Ralphie got shot. And from that moment on, everything was surreal. I was trying to process what was going on. One of the ushers, who was also a detective, said, "I'll drive you. It's at Woodhall." And so I got in the car with him, and I didn't say anything. I was just numb. And he got me to Woodhall in a matter of seconds, I think. And when I got there, there was a host of NYPD standing around, and you can sense in the air something dreadful happened.
I was getting out of my shower, getting ready for work. I'll never forget it. And recently, a sergeant that I worked with that was promoted to a lieutenant was assigned to Brooklyn North. And my phone started going haywire. It was ringing left and right, nonstop. When I got out, I have several missed calls. I was told that 2 officers were shot and it didn't look good. And a short time later, we found out that it was WenJian Liu and Rafael Ramos. What people don't realize is when you hear an officer shot in the line of duty, it doesn't matter if it's New York City or the West Coast, it feels like a part of you is taken away because, like you hear, it is a brother and sisterhood. And you kind of put yourself in their shoes and the family's shoes. And in this particular situation, being December 20th, 5 days before Christmas, having a punch to the gut is probably an understatement.
Everything was a little sketchy at the time, didn't know everything that went down. And they brought me into a room where the family was, where Marissa was, and some of the other family and loved ones have gathered. It's kind of like a holding place until they found out what was going to happen with Ralphie. I greeted Maritza, I hugged her, didn't know what to say. I mean, I'm a pastor, I've done funerals before, but this was surreal, this was unprecedented, knowing what I knew at the time, that he was shot while he was sitting in his patrol car. And they told us that he passed, and they asked us if we wanted to see him one last time. And I know Maritza went in, I believe. And I declined to go in. I don't know if I was scared. I do remember, I wanted to remember the Ralphie that stood at the top of the stairs, always greeting everybody when they came into church. That was the Rafael one to remember.
I'll start by saying that she's a very strong woman, a loving mother, and she obviously was a beautiful wife, because they were bringing up two beautiful boys and they were doing a damn good job of it. I've learned to grow close to Maritza because we have something in common. We both lost somebody very close to us in a moment's notice. Not notice, it just happened. We've done so many things together and spent plenty of time together that, once again, I said it before, that I knew that she would be okay because of her spirituality. And I've learned to appreciate the work that she does. She wants to honor Rafael. She wants to make sure that his legacy is remembered, not just being a police officer, but he had other things about him that is important for her to make sure that through her foundation, that she portrays the many sides of her late husband, one of which is the beautiful relationship he had with his community. And she knew what happened that day. She knows the hate that took her husband, and she wants to try to do something about it. And that just speaks volumes of what type of person Maritza Ramos is. See, that's the beautiful thing about a foundation, is that you're bringing people together to help other people. But we can't do it unless you have volunteers, unless you have donors. You need both. You need both. And so I would say that the Rafael Ramos Foundation is so important for our society in these times, in these difficult times, that if you're on the sideline and you read about it or hear about it and say, oh, isn't that nice? Oh, I love what they're doing, and you haven't done anything yet, it's time you do. It's time you do. Join it, be part of it, support it, physically as a volunteer or financially, because if you do, you're going to make a big difference in our society that needs the Rafael Ramos Foundation.